In this video, we are going to be discussing how there's a divided economy and how the rich continue to get richer, and really they have no idea on what to do about that. They are very lost on this whole concept because ultimately they don't want to stop the ability to continue to become more rich. And yet here it is in a situation in which that the divided economy is making it ever increasingly more burdensome on the working class individual to ever acquire what it is that they need in their life in order to achieve what it would be somewhat resembling that of what is the American dream. Now, we've discussed this so many times on this channel, and it's just so disappointing to see mainstream media discussions such as the one that I left a link for down in the description of this video. When I hear these rich individuals talking about what it is that's taken place within the economy and how there's this resilient consumer up on the higher end, like they're talking about how first class tickets are now overwhelming regular, I guess regular work, regular class tickets. When I think about that, like that move into luxurious experience and how you think about the Cantillon effect, moving into luxurious experiences creates the inequality. The divide is now happening within the consumer. You can ultimately see it within those airline tickets. And yet there's some sort of belief out there, and even within the discussion itself, within these, within this news panel, about how this will be temporary. And I think, no, this isn't temporary. This isn't a temporary thing. Like, you might find little waves of relief at times, but ultimately what we're finding is a separation that is going to ever increasingly get worse so long as there's ever increasing amounts of new money. There's no way else to go about it. There's really no other way. Now, understanding how it is that this takes place through really the study of Cantillon's essay on economic theory, and what it is that was happening here in the United States when we were a manufacturing powerhouse, being able to produce the world's greatest stuff and sending that stuff out there to the world, and the world sending us their money, and then us elevating our standard of living because of it. Now we are not in that same situation. There's no reason to believe that it can come back. All these people who are wishful, hopeful dreamers that somehow tariffs were going to do that are very misunderstanding of what it is that's causing the underlying, or the underlying economic forces that are causing the situation to take place, in which that the domestic manufacturers can no longer compete against foreign production. No matter how much you try to inflict tariffs or subsidies, it will take ever increasing amounts of tariffs and subsidies in order to maintain that. Eventually, it will fall away. It's only a matter of time. I mean, we're even finding it now that the idea that the Supreme Court doesn't even like the concept of Trump's tariffs, and that they may very well be deeming them illegal at some point. Now, just the idea of it sent a rally into the stock market. Now, it wasn't major, but it gave them some sort of feeling of comfort that there was going to be some relief to the pain that they are experiencing because of it. So I think to myself, within the idea of what it is that's taken place here within this economy, you have a working class individual people, right? When you think about the individual person within the working class whole, right? Who are no longer able to maintain a position in wealth that is going to provide them with the ability to become property owners, be able to acquire the savings that they need in order to get the things that they need in life that would have them saying that they are comfortable with their experience. Most people will struggle paycheck to paycheck. They won't end up with a retirement. And this is the unfortunate circumstances of being in the cycle in which that we are in. Understanding that it's taken place for this is better than trying to blame it or change it. See, this is why I think it's funny. That's why I watched this video. Well, here's the point, right? What are we? I'm 4 minutes into it. Okay, let me get to the point of it. The rich people are lost on this. You can see it within the statements of these people who are in this mainstream media news publication delivery. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is that they're trying to portray to the people out there, but you can hear it within their own statements. They don't have a clue on what it is that's happening when they seem to think that there is some sort of reversal to it. There's not. They don't want a reversal to it. Any reversal to it would be a punishment to themselves, as they would not become richer and richer by the day. It's not a, he says, they talk about a K-shape economy, right? And I find that kind of amusing, right? It's almost as if it's an excuse. Like, oh, when the K-shape economy is resolved or something of that nature. Like, that's kind of like an idea. I don't think they said that, but that's kind of like an idea out there. And I'm thinking, no, this is the unfortunate circumstances of which we are now in that we have two obvious separations that are happening here. You have a consumer class that is not the working class. There was a time when the consumer class was the working class. When people say, how is it that they're going to be able to do, when you hear those words, how is it that they are going to do? Like, how is the government going to deal with the people? How are the people going to be able to afford it? How are they going to do, right? They're not important anymore. Most of the people who are saying that are not important to the government. They're not important to the banking system, not important to the economy. The only thing that they're important for is actually driving the truck, flipping the burgers, serving the beers, loading up the 2x4s. These rich individuals, they don't understand that anymore. Like, they really have no idea on what it's like to be poor. And that's what's like, I think that's really what it comes down to, is that even if they had an idea of what it was to be poor from years ago, when some of them may have been broke and then figured out what it is that they needed to do to become the property owners, real estate agents, rental landlords, salesmen, whatever it was that they had in their life that got them to elevate up, and they say, hey man, I was once there. They were not there at this time. There's a difference. There was a difference back in the day when you had an average job that was enough to be able to provide for the wife, the kids, the family experience. When you had that ability within the broader economy, we could talk about a different story. But today, that isn't there. The average day job is not going to provide like it once did. And that's where I think a lot of people get lost on it, especially those like these rich individuals who are speaking within this news program, who are essentially thinking at some point there's going to be a consumer coming back to the working class individual. Like this K-shaped recovery, or this K-shaped economy, it's not even recovery, this K-shaped economy is going to somehow blend back together again. No, the idea of first class flights overwhelming regular flights, right? Regular coach flights, or whatever they call them now, right? When you think about that taking place, the luxurious experience of what it is to be able to fly, and who it is that is buying into that experience. They want the elevated experience. They want to move into it. What does that say? It says that there's an abundance of money in the system, but it's not for everybody. It's only for the top individuals. Why? Because they're property owners. They're capitalists with massive stock portfolios. They're business owners. These are the people who are in the position of acquiring new money. And by being in that position, they are overwhelming what it is that the working class individual used to be able to have an experience for. But that working class individual doesn't work for a system, or in a, I shouldn't say for a system, doesn't work in a system in which that they have direct access to the new money. Think about it. If you were building a product that you could send overseas, and that overseas purchase was sending new money to your company, you were fairly close to that new money. But now you have to wait for the new money to trickle through the system until you eventually serve a beer, and then you have access to it. It's far too late. By the time you get the money, you lost all the purchasing power of what it is that the new money has for the people who have first access to it. and they get to spend it at face value. See, this is the unfortunateness. There's no fixing that. That's what I think is so amazing by it, is like people are like, well, how do we fix it? You can't fix it. You have to lower your standard of living. The only thing you can do, as an individual, you can do this, right? You can cut back on your expenses as far as you possibly can. You drive old vehicles. You don't go and spend money frivolously. I can't even say the word, right? You don't go and do all that stuff, and then you try to figure out how it is that you increase your income as much as possible, right? And that's it. And you think about that all the time. How is it that I cut back on my expenses, not spend a lot of money, and then figure out how do I get this income to increase? If you can figure out a way to have more money than you spend at the end of the month, right? That's extra money, all the money beyond the money you're already making. When you have that extra money, now you're in a position in which that you can do something to try and get out of that working class mentality that this is somehow going to be enough, because it's not. Once you have that ability to have that extra money, now you can save up to become a landlord, rental properties, right? Get into dividend paying stocks, start a business, do all the things that you know that you're supposed to do, because going to work every single day and working a 9-to-5 job might be enough to pay the bills, but it will be very, very, very difficult to now keep up with those who are going to be on the other side of the wedge, who are just now on a rocket ship away, right? I mean, all these times, like I hear the arguments, oh yeah, we can cut them off, tax the hell out of them, end the Fed system, all the other stuff along with it. And I agree, man, there is a million different things that can be done that won't happen. All right? They won't happen. It won't. They're too big, too deep, too expanded, too overwhelming, too complicated. Most people who finally figure it all out are such a small fraction of the culture of people out there who would ever give a care about what it is that's happening out there. It just isn't going to take place. So now it's better to figure out what it is that you need to do, because you're not going to be able to change somebody else's mind. That's like, I mean, you might be able to change a couple people's mind, but you're not going to be able to change enough of the people's minds to actually make a difference in it. So when we understand that if they are going to continue to operate the central banking system the way that they do, we got to know that there is going to be ever increasing amounts of new debt, new money. That new debt, new money is going to cause a separation between the rich and the poor. It's going to cause working class individuals to have a more difficult time getting their paycheck to meet the bills at the end of the month. That's going to get more difficult as time goes on. Right? But if we see it correctly, then we can take ourselves and say, okay, I am going to position myself as this is occurring into dividend paying stocks, into rental properties, into a position in which that I can hopefully keep up, because if I don't do that, I can expect to be left behind. Right? In the consumer it's so obvious within the consumption. Right? When you see that there is a red hot consumer out there who is a small fraction of the people at the very top, and then you got 80% of the people who are getting laid off, losing their livelihoods, losing their savings, losing everything that they got going on in their life, and you can see the deterioration happening. Think about that split that is going on. Right? That is obviously two different things that are occurring. The working class individual is going to have a very, very, very difficult time going into the future, because this is no longer an economy for the working class. It's a bummer. I get it. But it's also an economy that has a lot of opportunity in it, but most people are too scared or just don't know that that's what they're supposed to do. Anytime you ever hear the complications of politicians coming into it, and that somehow they're going to fix it. Like, I love, hearing about how a politician's going to come in and like, really like, do it good for the people, and they're all of a sudden going to have this really wonderful experience from it. And I look back over time, and yet none of that really ever occurs. Like, you might get a little tiny taste of what it is that they were trying to sell you, but for the most part, what is it that occurs? More separation between the rich and the poor, more debt, more war. That's what happens. Like, I mean, it was just, if somebody says, "What's your prediction?" I'll give them those three predictions because it's always a guarantee that that's what's going to end up taking place. I don't like it that way, but that's just the way it is, right? How far are we into this? 15 minutes. Do we have any questions, statements? Let's go read through some of these. All right. Maxwell Hill took 10,000 of investment gains to pay off debt. Honestly, I can't imagine being paycheck to paycheck right now. Having assets really changes your life and the way you see things. Well, here's the thing. Cantillon described three people who live independently, right? Three people who live independently of the state. Number one, the property owner. Right? Property owners live independently of the state. And so if you think about it, if you're a big enough, if you have enough property, if you are a big enough landlord, you live independently. Everybody else find themselves to be rich, right? Now, I'm not saying rich people, or I'm not saying all property owners are rich, and I'm not saying all rich people are property owners. But generally, that's what you're going to find, right? That's kind of the general experience. The other people are the capitalists who invest into the system. Those who buy businesses, those who buy dividend stocks, stock market itself, those who are into the position in which that they take their money and then they try to get a return on that money, one way or the other, right? Those are the capitalists who also live independently in the state, right? Then you got the prince, right? And in this sense, you got like, legislation or whatever, like, I don't know, you want to consider it the government. That's a lot of ways kind of considered it, but really ultimately it comes down to like maybe, I don't know, somebody who has family inheritance or something like that. But essentially they're kind of in the capitalistic forms too, because that's where the money's coming from, right? Return on their capital. These are the people who live independently. Everybody else is dependent on somebody else, working for somebody else. Literally everybody. I don't care how much money you make. Right? If you're not one of those few positions, then you're dependent on somebody else. You're dependent on working. And now that's very unfortunate for a lot of people who are trying to trade their time for enough dollars in order to get ahead. And that is probably the most difficult way of going about it. Trying to take your time and trade it for enough dollars to get ahead. Save enough money to get a down payment on a house and then work ever hard to make that down payment or make those payments on that house for the rest of your life. That is probably the most difficult thing in the world to do right now. That is the way that it was done. To understand that we can't do it that way anymore is very difficult for most people to internalize, since that's the way it was always done. But it's some people might be able to pull it off, but it's going to be very hard if you do not have other ways of making money. And now generally, most people think a part-time job, and that will do it. You're going to have to trade even more time for dollars. But you're only going to have so much time in a day. And you're not going to be able to increase the amount of time in a day to increase the amount of dollars. Once you have made that limit of time that you have within the day to trade for dollars, you're capped. Problem. That's a major problem. The day that you figure out how it is that you can take some effort, deploy that effort, sit back, and then watch that effort do a return, now you're headed somewhere. It doesn't matter how much that is. It really doesn't matter how much it is. And I don't care how you figure that out. Just think about it, what it is that you have in your world, what it is that you could do to take a little bit of effort, deploy that effort, sit back, and then watch a return come from it. If it can happen multiple times, this is what you're looking for. Some passive income of some sort, residual income. How does that take place? For me, it's a video. Now, I can trade more time for dollars. I go out there and I can call a bingo game. I can go out there and do a side hustle or something and trade time for dollars. Or I can try and make a good educational, informative, entertaining video and hopefully get some views off of it, and I can get a little bit of return off of it. I put enough videos out on YouTube, and those videos go out there and they trickle in little pennies all day long. Now, is it going to make me rich doing it that way? Well, if I have enough popular videos, it might. For the most part, it trickles in just a little bit of money. Point being, I'm in the flow. When you're in the flow, you're in a position in which that you can then acquire the things that you need in your life. But I can't do it off of my day job alone. It won't be it. It just won't be there. All right? So it doesn't matter how much you have. It really doesn't. And that's what I find really interesting about the whole thing, is that a lot of times people are like, well, how much money do you make? And it doesn't really matter how much money you make. Like, that is probably like one of the biggest things that I have ever had to learn out of all this stuff, is it doesn't matter how much you make. It matters how much you can save. That's the only thing that's important. You can make $250,000 a year, but if you're spending $251, no good. Right? If you can make $50,000 a year and save 20 of that, oh man, you got something going on. It doesn't matter how much you make. It matters how much you save. And so all the people are like, man, what do you expect me to do? Go out there and work 16 hours a day? And I was just like, I don't expect anybody to do anything at all. I have no expectations of anybody else. What I am looking out there into the economy, and what I am seeing is not something that you're going to be able to change. And if you want to deal in this economy, deal with it the way it is, these are the circumstances in which that I feel that one has to go through in order to acquire the things that they would then assume to be that of the American dream. You don't have to go for the house. You don't have to go for all that stuff, right? You can try and live in a van and build up a Bitcoin portfolio that, or just saving Bitcoin the entire time and live that way. Like, who am I to tell people how to do it? Like, that's not up to me. But if people want that American dream, that idea of having the house, the wife, the kids, and all that other stuff that goes along with it, it's going to be a hell of a lot more effort than showing up for a day job and expecting that to be enough. I mean, you want that, you got to get a time machine, go back in time. These people, like, look at the video. Look at the video that I left a link for down in the description. Those people have no clue of what we face. They know what they want in their life, but they have no idea what we face and the unfortunate circumstances that we now are in when it comes to trying to live out a comfortable, decent life. Like, most people don't even ask for that much. And I mean, I don't even think, I think most people that I talk to don't really ask for that much. And it's very difficult to ask for not even that much. What time is it? All right, I got a few more minutes left here. All right, seems the truth often comes cold and hard. It really is. All right. All-nighter. Hey there, we got Brody up in the house. Got all-nighter. Thank you guys for being here. Bitcoin Ben. That looks like it was Ben Bernanke there. All right, maybe it's the obvious. This is Standard Nursery to Walrus. Maybe it's the obvious that they've noticed, but more likely it's not there yet. Who can calculate the efficiency value gained by AI breakthrough that are so young? Did you see the super chat? Oh yeah, thanks guys. No, I am now, right? Now I'm seeing it. Okay, Buffalo Bianco, thank you. Buffalo Blanco, thank you. All right, $9.99. Any thoughts on Michael Burry putting puts on AI stocks? I feel he is going to have to wait for a bearish event. Government to the rescue. Yeah, I don't know. I understand that a lot of people are scared of AI and in how AI is going to take over all these jobs and just totally disassemble what it is that's taking place as far as like the worker and what's going on in the working individual. I think that's going away anyway, isn't it? Like, it's already not really enough. And so I don't know like how this is any different than what was going on, except for that it's kind of like expediting what was already happening. I mean, the Cantillon essay really describes this separation from ever increasing amounts of new money. How that happens is going to be very unique as time goes on, considering that we got so many technical differences, from horses and wagons and silver to cell phones and airplanes and digital currencies and stuff like that. But the separation, that inequality, that's the same, right? That's going to continue onward. And even, if you think about it, in in Cantillon's day, the working class individual essentially had to leave. They migrated away from the area because their job just wasn't enough anymore. Because of that ever increasing amounts of new money and the pouring into luxury, the moving in of foreign production, right? The only people who were really sticking around were the people who were providing a service to that luxurious experience. All the people who were manufacturing stuff essentially didn't have a job anymore. Well, this is, you just don't think about like necessarily the specifics of it, but just think about the common thing that is happening. Ever increasing amounts of new money, moving into luxurious experience, working individual having to leave, right? This is the underlying economic force playing out. Like, I recognize it even in my own job. I mean, I try to bring it up and share with the people that even as, a salesman selling building supplies, I see where already how it is that not necessarily AI, although AI could at some point do this, it's still like the programs are being set up to circumvent me. Like, as the salesman, like, I don't need to be there anymore, because ultimately what I am doing is typing in information into a computer that then I place the order through. The information doesn't need to go through me. It can be directed right into that program from the customer itself. So me being the middleman is literally just that's it. Like, I'm just playing this middleman, collecting some money in between it. So eventually I won't be there anymore because it has to get more efficient. Right? And then, like, if I don't need to be there and get paid to do that, then why would I be there? So I can see that happening. Like, I can see it taking place. And so I don't even try to fight it anymore. I even tell people, like, hey, you can go to this program and make the bill payment right through there. You don't need to talk to me anymore about it. And so I'm not trying to like hurry up and get rid of my job, but I'm not sitting around waiting for it to end slow death. Like, I'm ready for it. Let's go, man. If it's going to end, let's go. Right? Let's end this thing and move on. Because sitting here waiting for a slow, painful death is not something that I'm willing to participate in and wait and see. Right? So if there's a way that there is going to be an elimination of my job that I can see it happening, like, we need to hurry up and get this done so that I can move on, because I don't want to sit around and wait for it, right? And that's really ultimately the way I feel. And because of that, I know that I need to go and find something else to do. I'm not afeared, right? I just don't live in that fear. I'm not scared of it. Other people who want it to stay the same, they're going to face consequences. They're going to live in fear, because things never stay the same. That's the important part. Everything changes, right? Constantly. A few more minutes. AI, big data centers will replace workers in the commercial real estate. Do you think that's true? I mean, I think AI is going to do a bunch. I think it's going to disrupt a lot of stuff for a lot of people out there. And I'm trying to even relate in the sense of how it is that I'm going to experience that myself. I can imagine somebody saying to AI, computer program, go and build me a house or whatever. And the program literally entering all the information into the programs that I enter in for the doors and the windows and the, siding package or whatever it is that I'm ordering at the time. Like, it will just blink, fill that right in with all the information it needs, and it doesn't need some human error to go and try and figure out where it is on the blueprints. They already know, right? Like, I can see how that's going to take place at some point in the future. as I try to relate to that, I also try to relate to the idea that there is a plenty of opportunities out there for people to make money. So if you're not doing it in that, that specific thing, there's something else that you can do it in. All kinds of stuff out there. It's a matter of figuring it out. So is it going to disrupt the world? Yeah, absolutely it is, just like everything else does. But it's not a matter of like ending our existence. I think it frees us up to go and pursue what it is that we really should have been doing with our lives to begin with. Right? Oh, no lawyers or real estate. Okay, what about just being a competitor, but put them out of business unless they keep you on board? If they paid more at jobs, people wouldn't have it to threaten them with tax. I don't know, but being a competitor is it. For the contracts, I think litigious society requires middlemen. Uh, there's no reason two people need to get 3% of the sale price for giving people some template legal docs. I don't see how blocking tariffs wouldn't be beneficial to the economy at this point due to the loss of domestic investment. I believe it will also cause bonds to increase. Okay, DA, I think you have it right in the sense that it would do some temporary effect. But here's the problem with it is that never in the history of time can you show any lasting examples of it working. You can show temporary examples of it working and actually working quite well, but it doesn't last, right? And if you give it any kind of length of time, you're going to find that the ever increasing problems of the manufacturing cost that is increasing due to the elevated standard of living of the people who are producing those things within that particular nation are then going to find that competitors out there are going to be doing it so much cheaper. And unless you have a government that is going to be handing over ever increasing amounts of subsidies or ever increasing amounts of tariffs, which is a sign that the underlying economic forces are playing out, meaning that you are not the competitor anymore. You can no longer compete. And if you don't have the government intervening in your life, which is essentially what you're asking for, if you're asking for them to inflict the tariffs and subsidies, the moment that they step out of the way, boom, you lose your job. So you're dependent upon the government for every single bit of it. And the only reason why it lasts is because they're willing to continue to increase the subsidies or tariffs. The moment that it ends or it's no longer something that they can do, then you're going to find the competitor is going to overwhelm them and the manufacturers will leave. Just look at Germany. Germany faces that, right? I mean, isn't Volkswagen like pretty much saying, hey man, we're just done. We can't do it here anymore with you. Isn't that crazy to think? Like, I mean, but it's not really when you understand it from the Cantillon effect. I mean, it's just really, it makes total sense on it. And like I said, I mean, you can show, like, you can be like, even 10 years from now being like, look at, man, all that stuff that Trump did, man, here it is, it's still gone. And then you're going to find that give it any length of time, it'll be fading away unless you have ever increasing amounts of subsidies and tariffs. It's just the way it's going to go. The only way to not have that be the case is to lower your standard of living or to maintain your standard of living for a reasonable length of time, to get everybody else's standard of living to increase until they're matching yours. All right? But how long could that possibly take? And how long can you remain stagnant? I mean, here it is. The working class people of the United States are going to remain stagnant for quite some time because they just really are no longer competing. They are really no longer competitive. But it's not like the United States is standing still. I mean, the top 20% are just going, well, you guys, unfortunate, and like if you're going to stay down there, adios, right? And they're going to go off and continue to consume, and they're going to make flights all first class flights. They're just going to be one, just flying on a plane is going to be a luxurious experience within itself, and it's going to be all first class, except for the absolute cheapest flight out there, right? Which will be the city bus type thing, right? Yeah, I don't know. All right, 1154. Germany average age is close to 50 years old. I love our Lord Savior Jesus Christ. Right on, Kirk. 11 million vehicles per annum, and they're done. This chasing excellence is really putting a hamper on my ability to be in your chat section. I'm sorry, guys. The manufacturing is going to be autonomous. That changes that. If you have to be the cheapest to sell your products, you're the biggest loser. The fuzzy dies. What's up, Will? All right, do I got to go? I have to go soon. All right, I don't think the rear seats can be made first class without a drastic change. All right, I wouldn't mind first class flight to avoid fighting on the plane. All right, we're coming up on the moment of when AI meets its singularity and begins stamping itself out exponentially. Yeah, it was funny because I had a friend actually message me the other day and she was just like, "What's going on? Did you guys change the bingo game?" Talking about the side hustle that I do on Sundays. And she sent me a screenshot of like a Google AI generated response about like, things to do on a Saturday in Astoria. And the bingo game popped up. And I kind of laughed about it. And I'm thinking, how is AI going to take over? It never gets anything right. In fact, I had to argue with Grok the other day about the SOFR being over the effective fund rate. Even after it said it was got, the answer 100% accurate, I'm like, you don't, and I'm like, and I'm giving it links and I'm showing, I'm like, even the links that it was providing, it was misinterpreting them or whatever. And so I find it very interesting on how it is that people have given AI a lot of credit that I think, honestly, I don't know if it's like I understand that there's some things that it does quite well, like, and people are looking at the things that it is doing quite well. But then I also think about how much credit people have given to it that it doesn't deserve. It just doesn't deserve it. I'm going to tell you now, I don't care how awesome the music sounds. It will never sound as awesome unless it's playing from somebody who's doing it live. The roughness, the mistakes, the attitude, the whatever, right? That's what makes it good. And yeah, AI can generate mistakes into it. They can, do all the other things to try and make it look as authentic. I don't care. If it's real happening right in front of you, that is something that is special. That AI can't take away. It can't take that away. There's nothing that it can do to make that as awesome as it is because it's unique between two living people and AI can't regenerate that. I don't care what people say. They can make it up and make jokes about it and all that other stuff. That's fine. But the reality is that. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Simon, thank you so much for mentioning the SOFR. I had to look at the app from the New York Fed, and wow, the graph is telling of a problem. Yeah, well, I think, I think if we, I don't have enough time to dive into this, guys. Okay, but I think if we look into the balance sheet constraints, think about the balance sheet being taxed in a way that lending money into the SOFR is not profitable unless the interest rates rise. Think about it almost like that. This is like almost like a shadow tightening within the banking system that is not well discussed. It's the supplement leverage ratio and the liquidity coverage ratio. Those two things, like understand those two positions of the central bank of the major banks within the central banking system, right? Those two are very important to understanding why the SOFR is now above the effective fund rate. It's because of this balance sheet constraint, this essentially a tax. It can be considered a tax. Right? It's not a tax, but it can be considered like a tax on it, making it burdensome for them to lend money unless the interest rates are higher. Okay? So kind of take a look into that, and then it makes a lot more sense. I don't think it necessarily is a problem as much as it is a concern within the tightening, right? Within the tightening cycle. All right. Cruising down, Simon, we need a single stream to go over the key charts to watch from different Federal Reserve websites to get a better picture of the economy between the Fed meeting notes. Yeah, I agree. All right, the AI trailers are crazy. AI will be a new Fed. What do you think? I don't know. Once AI starts doing cocaine, everyone dies. Good idea, Will. Yeah, I agree, Standard Nursery, thank you so much for being here. Every small business I know love AI. We're going to learn to filter out AI content the same way we learn to filter out pop-up web ads. Well, and what I think actually is going to end up coming from it is that you're going to find things like delivery of message, like I'm doing, to be more appreciated because they're going to know that it's more authentic, right? Anybody can go and generate AI. Like people are like, dude, use AI to write a book, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't want to use AI to write a book. I've used AI to clean up some articles that I have posted on Patreon, and even that doesn't feel like it's definitely my thoughts and my words, right? But it's cleaned up so it flows, and it's like, it's not me rambling on, but it's actually cleaned up and delivered in a way that it's actually something that you can, you know, retain. But it doesn't feel truly authentic, right? Even if it is cleaned up and it is my words. So writing a book using AI doesn't sound like something that I want to do, right? Not even writing the articles, even when I have used it. When I think about what it is that I want to deliver, I want it to be very unique. I want it to be very authentic, and I want it to be, my real thoughts. And that's what I feel like I'm doing here. And I also think that it's also appreciated, and that's why I continue to do it this way. I mean, I could go and do all kinds of fancy edits and clean it all up and make sure every single word is coming out just absolutely the way that it was supposed to do, so that I could get, hundreds of thousands of views for every single video that I put out there, making millions of dollars on YouTube every month. But I don't think that's real. I think people who do that are really playing it up. When you can come out on a live stream every single day, and it doesn't matter what question you get asked, you're going to answer it, and you're going to answer it as best as you possibly can without trying to do research or worried about what it is that people are going to think about your response. That's being real, all right? That's being authentic. All those other people, they're doing it for show. And I get it. We all got to make money. All right, guys, I would love to stick it out for a little longer, but I can't. Got to go into work. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.